It's 6 p.m. Eastern in New York City. It's time for the Daily Wrap. And welcome to the Daily Wrap, everybody. We have a great show planned. The White House is ready to cut a deal with Iran. Rudy Giuliani tries to explain himself in a Wall Street Journal op-ed. And ISIS is training children to kill. No shock there. And I think there was an award show last night for something, even though not as many people watched as one would think. Anyway, I'm going to talk about all of that with the great, that's impromptu, I'm not saying it, great Rick Umper from
I wrote
Forbes
the script.
magazine. Oh, all right. He's now a writer now as well. He also has a show on Sirius XM Radio. She is a powerhouse attorney. That is also impromptu, but I believe it. From the city of brotherly love, Heather Hansen joins us in a nice red tonight, by the way.
Thank you, Joe.
I don't think they're, Philly's red, I guess I'll call it.
There you go.
And finally, a former Navy SEAL and congressional candidate, Carl Higbee. You're back.
Back again.
Good to see you.
I don't
sir.
get like Master of the Universe or something like Rick. Or
He's writing these scripts. He only fought for us, but he does not give us any accolades. Yeah. Let's go to the Daily Download. Well, this past weekend we did get some disturbing news. Another terrorist group has targeted the United States. This time, Al-Shabaab, a Muslim extremist group from Somalia, has released a video encouraging Muslims to attack some malls around the world, including the Mall of America in Minnesota. That's obviously one of our largest malls. To get a little background on the story, we are joined by Jonathan Gilliam. He is a former Navy SEAL himself and a special agent for the FBI. Jonathan now runs a security firm, United States Continued Services. Jonathan, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
So, John, first and foremost, who are Al-Shabaab and should we be worried?
Well, you know, I keep telling everybody again and again, don't concentrate so much on Al-Shabaab, Al-Qaeda in Yemen, Al-Qaeda in general, ISIS. Khorasan was big for a while. You need to start looking at the reality of who this is, and that is fundamental Islamic Mohammedanism. That's what we're fighting here. It's the same Mohammedanism that was 1,400 years ago, before there was even Sharia and Sunni conflicts. There was Mohammedanism. It's the same tactics, the same principles, and they used terror back then. The only difference is now they have technologies that they didn't have back then, which gives them a global reach versus what they used to have, which was a regional reach. And so, you know, for the layman that's out there that was watching this show, getting bogged down in the names and where these people come from particularly, I think it's inconsequential for the fact that the overall ideology does not like us and wants to attack us.
Yeah, Jonathan, you said they now have global reach, and that obviously means the United States. They've specifically said the Mall of America. My question is, can you protect something like a mall from a terrorist attack, considering there's no real security around it? I mean, if a couple of guys want to go in there, kill everybody in it and themselves, it sounds like there's not a heck of a lot you could do unless it's obviously prevented well beforehand.
We've been saying this for a long time. When I left the SEAL teams in 2002, I served as an air marshal for a little bit and then went to a contracting company. And we were made up of SEALs, Special Forces from the Army, Air Force, and we were contracted to Department of Homeland Security to do threat assessments all over the country. We compiled massive amounts of information. We made suggestions of these places, malls, educational sectors, stadiums and arenas, all the different soft targets around the country. It is amazing to me that none of that information has been shared. And it's also very, very amazing that they haven't used this to teach the American people what to look for, because ultimately we were predicting these types of attacks back then, and it's the same type of techniques, tactics, and procedures that the enemy will use against us now. And the greatest thing to defend against that are people, aware people that are taught what to look for and where to look. That's it. That's the main thing.
Jonathan, vigilance, absolutely. I know Rick has a question.
Jonathan, just to switch gears on you just a tiny bit, there's a couple of articles that came out today suggesting that ISIL is very much in trouble, particularly within the borders of Iraq, and that they are now actually beginning to lose this fight. Very curious about your take on these pieces and if you see agreement there.
I don't see agreement in it, and what I see is a person writing an article that really is not educated in unconventional warfare. And I don't want to throw reporters under the bus. The reality is people write about things that they really don't know the truth and the depth of what they're writing about sometimes, and this is one of those cases. Again, it doesn't even matter if we eliminated all people off this earth that called themselves ISIS. This is a movement that is really, it's World War III, but it's the first unconventional world war we've ever had in history. So that's really what we need to concentrate on. I don't think ISIS is being beat back. We've had airstrikes which have done little. There are reports from fighters that are fighting against ISIS out there that say that, really they go in, they get into gunfights every day. They have sources that sit at the military bases, and when the airplanes take off, they radio everybody from ISIS, and they all disperse. So
John,
they're
let me
really
jump
not
in
doing.
here and back you up real quick. And to what Rick said, just because they haven't taken new ground doesn't mean they're falling behind. I think that's a common misconception, like you said with the article. Just because they don't take a new city, they don't take Baghdad, they're still holding key cities like with the Mosul Dam and places like that. They don't need to expand anymore. They have the oil fields they need, and they're building within themselves. As you can see, they're recruiting children and things like that. So I think John hit the nail on the head with that. They're just because they don't physically expand by land and by territory doesn't mean that
They're losing.
Exactly, and with the airstrikes we're doing is holding them from keeping new grounds, but they're still developing within, and this has become global. They're now reaching out via the social media, and they're beating us at our own game almost.
And you have to remember, guys, that unconventional warfare, terrorism is unconventional warfare. It's getting the biggest bang for your buck. And that's what we have to realize is that, they are making the war look way bigger than it really is over there. And while they're doing that, their roots are spreading all over the world. I mean, you've had Australia, Canada, Denmark of all places, one of the most peaceful places that there are, attacked, it's a virus that is spreading all over the globe, and it's like an iceberg. I don't know if I said this on your show before, what you see on the top of the water is nothing compared to what's under the water when it comes to an iceberg. That's what sank the Titanic. So we need to really start looking at what's going on underground. And one other thing, what happened with these 3 girls over in Great Britain, followed their friend. Those are the types of things that can be stopped. Those are the types of recruitment techniques that can be stopped right there.
Jonathan, we want to thank you for joining us. We really appreciate that. We know we kept you a little longer than we promised, but you were making such poignant and quite frankly, compelling, disturbing points, and certainly vigilance seems to be the overriding theme on this, so we really appreciate it.
You got it. And long live the brotherhood, Carl.
You too, John.
Coming up next, did America's mayor try to take back his comments on Obama not loving America? This is the Daily Wrap only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. I'm Joe Concha, joined by Rick Unger, Heather Hansen, and Carl Higbee. Well, Mayor Rudy Giuliani, he's not here, but he's still in the news after saying that President Obama doesn't love America. He made those remarks at a private dinner for Scott Walker in New York City last week. Well, today, in an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, Mr. Giuliani writes, and I quote, "Obviously, I cannot read President Obama's mind or heart, or to the extent that my words suggested otherwise. It was not my intention. When asked last week whether I thought the president was a patriot, I said I did and would repeat that. I bear him no ill will, and in fact think that his personal journey is inspiring and a testament to much of what makes this country great." Well, on PBS NewsHour last weekend, Mark Shields held nothing back when tearing into Mr. Giuliani.
If this is going to be an arms race about who hates Barack Obama and who can say he's less of a patriot, Rudy Giuliani had 6 draft exemptions and got a judge to write a request to have him reclassified 2A so he didn't have to serve in Vietnam. I mean, to him start grading patriotism is unacceptable, and it's going to take the Republican Party right down the road to defeat.
Well, clearly this is going to hurt Rudy Giuliani's chances in 2016 for the presidency. Wait, he's not running for president. Okay, Carl, let's start with you. With Rudy's op-ed, is that walking it back? Are you disappointed that he's basically saying, I really didn't mean it?
Grab your spine, man. I mean, he made this comment. It was a bold comment, sure, but I think he had some merit and it had some grounds. If you read Dreams of My Father, Barack Obama's first book, it clearly states that he thoroughly disagrees with the fundamental ideology of America and the free market system and the democracy we have. And it just seems that anytime somebody makes a groundbreaking comment that gets all this attention nationwide, they're like, oh, I want to be more moderate.
Yeah, but I think it's a distraction. I think that people are over these personal attacks. I think that, when you talk about what President Obama has said about, say, George W. Bush, when he said his ideas are unpatriotic, but it wasn't so personal. When you start getting personal right now with everything else we have going on in this world, I think no one cares. And they think that it is just going down to fighting about things that aren't important.
Well, first, let me say, Carl, I read the same book, and I didn't get that from that book even this much. So just to point that out. More to the point, the article that the mayor wrote this morning in the Wall Street Journal, aside from the fact that he couldn't bring himself to just flat out apologize, the argument he was making is that his problem with Barack Obama is that he won't recognize America's exceptionalism. I'll tell you what, when America begins to keep its promise to our veterans, when America begins to run a VA that doesn't allow veterans who went to war for our country to die on the streets, then we can get back to talking about American exceptionalism.
But Rick,
I'm glad you brought that up.
But let me just say, that is inappropriate because
Inappropriate.
despite
What's
the fact that
inappropriate
we're
is how
not
we treat the
perfect,
veterans.
I agree with you. But we're not perfect, but we are still
It's worse than-
exceptional.
oh, no.
But listen,
Well, we are not.
I am tired of people saying that we're not exceptional. I'm tired of McCain saying he's
Well, you
ashamed of our
have to
country.
be exceptional to
We-
call yourself exceptional.
It doesn't mean
No,
that you
our
can't-
number one obligation is to honor that contract more than welfare, more than anything.
But on
you
that,
cannot be
Rick, I
exceptional.
want to say that you talk about being exceptional. If you want to be exceptional, you have to give people an avenue to be exceptional, and sometimes give them the kick in the butt. And that by increasing the food stamps in an unprecedented way, increasing the welfare state as we have, increasing the new health care thing, you are not giving people an encouragement to get off on their own and do it. So he
I
is
think
not
that's been
encouraging.
proven
And
to
I'm
be
glad you brought up
untrue.
the VA thing. The VA issue is, I'm myself going through, I'm a disabled veteran,
Right.
so I'm going through this, and it is atrocious. And
Yes, it
I
is.
think, I don't want to go Bush Obama here, but I think if Bush were in today, he would come down a lot harder than what.
Well, we'll never know,
President
and
Biden
I
did.
hope
Never
so.
will. Yeah.
But we'll never know that.
So I
but,
think his,
but you're not
concern
an
for the military
exceptional
is less.
country if you violate your number one obligation.
You can
and
still
that
be
is our
exceptional
number one
and
obligation.
aspire to more.
Exceptionally what? I mean, that's a basic. You made a promise to people. You made a promise that if they went off to war for us, that you would provide them with certain services. We breached that promise. How can that be exceptional? I just don't get that.
I don't disagree that we have a lot left to aspire to, but that does not mean that we are not still above and beyond the majority of the rest of the world.
Well, that's not exceptional.
It is.
No, it's not. You just said, I'm just even saying the majority.
The rest of the world.
Let's hear what an actual presidential candidate, or at least a potential one, unlike Rudy Giuliani, who I'm pretty sure isn't running in 2016, Senator Marco Rubio told a Florida radio station. We have more quotes. I don't feel like I'm in a position to have an answer for every person in my party that makes a claim. Democrats aren't asked to answer every time Joe Biden says something embarrassing, buddy. So I don't know why I should answer every time a Republican does. I'll suffice it to say that I believe the president loves America. I think his ideas are bad. Congressman Keith Ellison was asked on ABC's This Week if there was any truth to Rubio's comments.
The point that Marco Rubio was making there, and I guess the point that Scott Walker was trying to make, is that there does seem to be a little bit of a double standard here. The Republicans tend to get asked these questions about their outliers more than Democrats are.
Oh, I don't agree with that. People are always being asked about what somebody else said, but I can tell you this, the president definitely is a great lover of America. I mean, so much so that 11 million Americans got health care who've never had it before. That's pragmatic love of country when you do things for your countrymen and women. So I don't know. I think that the president's an amazing patriot and one of the best presidents I think our country will ever have seen.
Here's where I take issue with both sides on this. He says, well, the president must love the country because he gave them health care. Or Carl will say more people are on food stamps than ever before. Right. So could it just be an aptitude or a political policy instead of love and hate? That's just
it. That's exactly right what you just said. Don't say he doesn't love his country because you disagree with his policy. Senator Rubio, I thought, gave a fantastic answer. I really do. He disagrees with the president. He's certainly entitled, but he didn't question his heart and soul and how he feels about the nation he runs.
It's taking away the personal. He says, I don't think he doesn't love his country. I don't love his ideas. And that's what this debate should be about. It shouldn't be about what's in someone's heart, because what's your definition of love? Is it paternal? Is it going off and giving somebody a kick in the butt? Everybody's got a different definition. Right. I think that this argument is taking us far away from where we should be focused.
Carl, last word?
I generally think that Giuliani should have stood by his comments. I mean, that's obviously what he believed. He said it from the hip, so stick with it. And that's the problem with politicians. I think, and what he said at the end of that interview is that he'll be revered as one of our greatest presidents of all time. I think the exact opposite of that. Reagan wasn't appreciated to the extent he is today until today. So I think after his presidency and 4, 8, 12 years down the line, he's going to be really looked at as a bad avenue for America.
We'll see.
We'll see. Indeed.
I have no opinion, because you're right. It takes that long.
Yeah.
Time will tell. So coming up next on The Wrap, is the White House really getting ready to ease up on nuclear and economic sanctions with Iran? I'm sure Carl has a couple of choice words on that one. You'll find out about that next. This is the Daily Wrap from New York City, where with the wind chill, it is now 2 degrees. For those of you watching in Miami, I hope you're enjoying yourselves. This is only on Newsmax TV. Welcome back to the Daily Wrap. I am Joe Concha. Well, the Obama administration has been working with Iran to come up with a deal that the president believes will help secure the Middle East. The Associated Press reporting that while discussions are ongoing between Secretary of State John Kerry and representatives from Iran, the basic deal includes limiting Iran's nuclear power development for 10 whole years. But then the idea would be to reward the mullahs for good behavior over the last years of the agreement, because we, of course, know they're going to behave themselves, thereby lifting constraints on its uranium enrichment programs and easing economic sanctions. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, not happy, as you can imagine, over the talks. He believes, like the rest of the world, Iran is still secretly working on its nukes program.
העובדה שאיראן ממשיכה בפעילות טרור, פעילות טרור שהיא רצחנית, חובקת גבולות, חובקת אזור, חובקת עולם, לצערנו לא מפריעה לקהילה הבינלאומית להמשיך ולשוחח עם איראן על הסכם גרעין שיאפשר לאיראן לבנות יכולות תעשייתיות לפיתוח נשק גרעיני. תמוה שגם אחרי שבסוף השבוע דוח הסוכנות הבינלאומית לאנרגיה אטומית קבע שאיראן ממשיכה להסתיר את המרכיבים הצבאיים של תוכנית הגרעין שלה, נמשכות איתה שיחות הגרעין.
Everybody get all that?
Are we really
everything
doing
went
the
well
whole
in Hebrew
speech in
school.
Hebrew?
Couldn't agree more.
Carl Higbee.
Yeah, whatever he says, right?
So here's the thing about Iran is that these clowns have been going on to try to get a nuke for a long time. They're gonna get one eventually. All right, sanctions talks, everything like that. They look good on the surface, but the bottom line, they slightly hinder it, but they don't stop it. And I'm not worried about the guys who have 1 million nukes like Russia or us or anything. I'm worried about the guy who's got 1 nuke, because he's got 1 nuke, he's going to use it. And Bibi said a couple really important things. Not then, but he said if we were to lay down our weapons today, Islam would take over. If Islam were to lay down their weapons today, there would be peace. And that's why I have such great respect for the guy. And we really should listen to him when it comes about knowing the ideology of this Iranian government.
Yeah, Heather, I mean, the Iranian government has said publicly that their #1 objective is to wipe Israel off the map. So how could we ever allow them to get a nuclear weapon?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Eric Cantor had said that we should mistrust and verify, paraphrasing President Reagan, where he said trust and verify. And it seems to me that under this deal, we're trusting, and we don't even have anything set up right yet for verifying. So I think a lot has to be thought out in another meeting next Monday. But we need to know a lot more about this deal before we agree to it.
Rick, there's obviously a political aspect to this, and perhaps legacy for President Obama saying that, hey, see, I was able to make a deal with the Iranians, and that's part of my foreign policy legacy. I mean, this doesn't live in logic, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm just trying to remember who Eric Cantor is.
He's the guy who got beat by somebody who spent less money on steakhouse.
I remember that name. Look, I don't understand why everybody is so sure they know what's in this agreement. Nobody really has any idea what's in this agreement. If it's really a 10-year deal that just basically puts it on hold, then I'm not going to like it either. I'll be a little bit surprised if that's the case. So I think we have to wait. Secondly, that was a great line that Netanyahu gave. That's a terrific line. The problem is that we learned today from the Mossad that when Bibi stood in front of the UN with his Boris Badenov drawing of a bomb, that he was lying to the world.
How?
Mossad says is that everything he said about what the Iranian policy was and what they were doing was wrong. That they weren't as far along as Bibi says, that they haven't been spending the time on developing a weapon that he said. This is the Mossad talking, not the CIA or whatever.
So, Carl, you think this is a bluff? In other words, in Iraq, Saddam tried to at least give the impression that he had weapons of mass destruction,
right,
because that kept, obviously, Iran at bay, and it kept the Sunnis at bay, or excuse me, the Shiites that were obviously the enemy. Right, the perception was enough to repel people.
But it ultimately ended up with us going in there and throwing them out of power and marching through Fallujah in 4 days.
I don't think he
US
believed we were
Marines.
ever going to do it.
Right, but that's the thing. And the thing with Iran is, short of military action, who are we to say you can't develop stuff in your own country? Because you would need a military intervention to truly verify.
Well, that's it.
And that's what it is. And the problem is we're not in a position to tell them legitimately don't build nukes without going in there and overseeing it.
So what do we do?
That's a good question. It's above my pay grade. But if it was me, I would send at least the diplomatic level in there right now to say, let me see your facilities. They're not going to show you everything.
But we can't count on the UN to do it. I mean, we saw what happened
No,
in
you
North
can't.
Korea. So somebody's got to do it, and I agree with you that that's probably the best way. When we know more about this, we'll have a better idea. It seems as though we can't be giving all the concessions, especially because they've
But
given
we
us
don't
no
know that
reason to
we are.
trust them. Right.
I buy all of that. The problem is we don't know that we are. I don't know why everybody's rushing ahead of this. Look, when the deal is announced, if a deal is announced, then we can all criticize it if it
But how many
deserves
times have they
criticism.
stuck to any deal they've ever had in the
Well,
past?
that's
That's the
also
problem.
a
That's
fair
the
fair
problem.
thing. But taking your point, Carl, and I think you were incredibly honest and forthright with it, what's the difference? What do we got to lose?
That's true, and
But
I
we
think
have to trust
I think the retaliation we should have at the next step should include some sort of military operation if they do violate this.
If
new
they
agreement.
violate.
Last resort, but Heather, you make a great point, because if we remember from the movie Team America, Hans Bricks went into North Korea to inspect their facilities, and then he was flushed down
That's where I got
tube
that
and eaten by a shark. I'm just saying. Anyway, coming up next, in English, not Hebrew, it's potluck time. This is the Daily Wrap only on Newsmax TV. Welcome back to the Daily Wrap, everybody. It's potluck time, the part of the show where each of us brings a story to the table, just like you would bring a dish to a potluck dinner, because we do that all the time. Carl Higbee, you like to cook at home. What did you bring on the road?
Bill de Blasio has struck again with a $35 million plan to retrain all of the New York City Police Department. And now you have to take a step
Can you
back.
repeat that number? I'm sorry.
$35 million.
Really?
Yeah, he has spent of New York City tax money to retrain all the police officers to say that now, when you're in a stressful situation, you need to step back, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and calm down. And that's it. And these cops are mandated to go to these retraining classes after their 8, 10, 12, 13-hour shifts. So they're falling asleep in the class anyway, and the cops are like, this is ridiculous.
Well, at least they're calm, right? I
They're
taking
calm,
a
their
breath
eyes are
and they're falling
closed.
asleep.
Yeah, but are they calm, or is it getting them more upset that they're wasting their time?
Really,
this
I mean,
way?
it is a bureaucratic load of junk is what it is. Wow. It's a CYA for de Blasio to say, you know what, we retrained them, now, all the stuff that happened with the Garner case and everything is we dealt with it.
But is that the appropriate retraining?
I want to practice my transcendental meditation at this moment.
Yeah.
Do you have a mantra?
This is the mayor.
De Blasio doesn't really have it very together. I'm sorry.
Well, we can agree on that.
Is that your
$35
mantra?
million
$35 million.
to tell him to breathe.
There's got to
That's
be some
insane.
meditation training or something
I tell you
involved
what,
in that.
I don't know what it is, but give me half of that, I'm sure I'll solve the
I
problem.
mean, yeah, half.
Right.
So-
I'd have done it for a whole lot less than half.
You figure if you just put every police officer into New York Sports Club, because they got this $99.95 deal right now for like
Yeah,
6
it'd be
months.
cheaper.
Yeah.
That's
yeah,
right.
and then you just take a yoga class.
Well,
I actually
actually-
Yeah,
assume
but
that
it's
would be
got
the
to,
same.
the thing is, we're joking about it, but it's got to make these police officers feel like they're under attack. I mean, being trained to take a deep breath when you're dealing with criminals on the
Yeah.
street who are
You will get
lacking
shot.
respect. Yeah.
I
There
submit.
is that.
I submit that they felt like they'd been under attack
Oh,
since the
absolutely,
Garner case, when
absolutely.
the mayor completely turned this thing upside down and said that he had to, since his son was a young boy, teach him how to be safe, not from gangs, not from criminals, but from the New York City
Yeah.
Police Department.
I will say that I stand unequivocally with the New York City Police to not close their eyes and do not take deep breaths and deal with the situation as it presents
Well, I'm
itself.
definitely with you on the
Yeah.
don't close your
Right.
eyes.
Yeah.
Somehow that strikes me as bad advice.
Neither
with a
one of
cop.
those are appropriate in the,
Yeah.
in the conflict moment.
Interesting. Speaking of conflict moments, culinary moment right now, and it's your
My potluck
time.
piece?
Yes, it is.
For a president who is supposed to be so transparent, yet again, we're seeing today another example of his lack of transparency. Back in January, he was supposed to produce all of the correspondence and communication, email communications between himself and the IRS. He now says that he and his administration now say that it's not up to them, it's up to the IRS. The IRS has to wait until they're done with this Tea Party scandal because gosh knows they can't do two things at one time. So yet again, we're in this cycle of we're not going to get this information. Clearly there's a problem when people have been laid off and then rehired, when they were looking at people's private taxpayer information. I mean, it's just a complete travesty what's going on there.
You're cheating because you already know that I thought that was ridiculous that they're actually hiring back people that they fired.
On that, they said that they couldn't do it because they had 90,000 email accounts to do it. I guarantee you 90,000 people at the IRS are not doing legitimate work. Take 10,000 of those people and have them go through
Yeah,
the
but
other
you're
nine.
missing the best part. They have 90,000 email accounts,
Yeah.
except for the one that went
The one,
missing.
right,
Yeah,
right.
exactly. But
They
the
don't
other-
have 90,001.
The other thing is what she said about transparency is Barack Obama during his election campaign said democracy requires accountability and accountability requires transparency.
Well, they all say
and
that.
he has not displayed a single
Well,
bit of this.
the least transparent president I think that we've almost ever
Well, I
had.
don't know if I'd go that far.
It is pretty darn
Yeah.
close.
I think
mean,
that's
he
an
does not
exaggeration.
want to be second guessed.
But
Except for
I'll-
Watergate, maybe we'll go there. But.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I was going to say.
I was 2 at the time, Rick.
But
What was
well,
Watergate
I
like?
actually remember
I wasn't
it
even a zygote,
extremely
so-
well.
There was- right.
And let me say with absolute certainty that the Nixon
He's less
administration
transparent.
was not
I
the
will-
most
I will give you
transparent.
that.
True.
Now, look, I mean, this is a weird thing with this White House now and the IRS because on the whole scandal, right?
Right. Which
it's
one?
never gotten, well, the IRS scandal.
Right.
It's never gotten to the White House. And yet they're behaving in a way that makes you think they must have something to hide.
And that's the problem.
And I don't understand why, except I think at this point they're just running the scandal clock down.
Well, that's what they're trying to
So,
do. But in
yeah.
the meantime, they're losing any bit of trust that they had from the American people.
But what people forget, and they're allowing them to forget, is the IRS works for us,
That's
for
right.
the taxpayers. They are
Yes.
our employees. Why are we not getting our information?
Heather, I don't know if they care if they're losing the trust of the American people because Rick said it perfectly. This is
just-
four corners in old college basketball, Dean Smith. They're just running the
Running it
clock
out.
down
Yeah.
and just hope, you know what?
But that's a long clock to run out. It's not like we're that close.
21 months, I
Closer
guess.
than you
Long
think.
time.
Why is it that civil servants act neither civil nor act like servants? When I mean, it's just
Can
like
I write that down?
Ooh, that's a bumper sticker right
there
there.
you
Yeah,
go.
yeah.
I mean, you've been to the DMV, right?
It's like a
Sadly-
leper
There you
colony
go.
down
Although
there.
you want to know something, the DMV, I hope they're watching. The DMV in New York functioned beautifully. DMV in
bad
California,
rap.
not so good.
Yeah.
Connecticut, you better go to the DMV on spring break and camp out there because
Yeah,
you can't
see,
get
that's how it
anything
is in
done.
Yeah, see, I
California.
think it depends where you
Not
are because
here.
they get a bad rap.
I
think
got
at
through
some
here
times
really
you can-
easy.
yeah.
It depends on where you go and depends on which DMV. When I went to go get my moped license, for instance, this weekend,
Okay.
things went swimmingly. So you never really quite know. Anyway, when we come back, we will have more potluck, including mine, and you're going to love it. And a little bit later, it's time for Yay or Nay. Critical acclaim around that segment, and you're going to have to stick around for that one. This is the Daily Wrap, and it's only on Newsmax TV. And welcome back to the show, everybody. We are in the middle of our potluck. Rick Unger, you are the third course.
So while we've been talking about the IRS, there is a fascinating, at least I think it's fascinating, poll out today that tells us that 68% of Americans think that wealthy people pay too little in taxes, and 60% who believe that the middle class pays too much in taxes. This takes me to one of my favorite subjects. If Americans feel this way, that it's not fair, is it time for the flat tax? That's
Flat
my
tax.
question to you.
That's a Forbes idea. Who would write for that?
That's, I am, well, wait a second. Not only, I hardly know what to say to that. Not only do I write for Forbes, but my fearless leader and my friend, Steve Forbes, is the godfather of the flat tax. And I'm curious what you guys think, because I have certain feelings about the flat tax.
I'm pro flat tax.
Okay.
10% across the board, no matter how much you make, with a maximum of 50,000 deductions.
You know,
Heather?
I would have agreed with that
Well, see,
without
wait,
hesitation.
you just added deductions.
Deductions, yeah.
That's not a flat tax now.
Well, I think there needs to be we need to meet in the middle in there, because like a family who makes $45,000 a year, guess what? They should be eligible for up to that $50,000 or whatever.
So what you're
But-
really
but
saying
see-
is put a base in where the flat tax
Yeah,
begins.
so if you
But
make a
then,
million.
agree with
did you read the article this weekend in the Wall Street Journal
Yes.
about where you live has such an impact on
Yes.
how much you can spend? And so then you're starting to talk about, well, if you have a family, well, if you live in a certain area, if you live in New York, it's less money than if you're living in Kansas or something. So I think that it's easy to say, yes, I'm all for a flat tax until you start thinking about those little minor
Here's the other
adjustments.
side to that argument. It's a great argument. The other side of it is if you're living in New York and cost of living is higher, you're probably getting paid more for the same job. Here's my biggest concern. I'd like you all to respond to it. How do we know that we won't see the same thing happen that happened with the progressive tax, which is special interests step in and they create a 75,000 page IRS code because they've got special favors? How do you assure me that they won't do the same thing and start messing with the flat tax?
Well, Thomas Jefferson said, should the laws become so arduous that the people cannot understand them, they become invalid. And I believe that to be a fair point.
But how do you do with the flat tax and keep that from happening?
When I ran for Congress, I said, if I get there, I'm going to propose a tax bill that is 1 page. And you add that in because I live in Greenwich, Connecticut, where houses are very expensive, but property taxes are fairly low. Stanford, one town over, has lower expenses for houses, but much higher property tax. So in a 30-year mortgage, you end up paying more in Stanford than you do in Greenwich.
Right.
So, I mean,
But I don't know that there's guarantees, but you have to, I mean, when you're going forward with a flat tax, the idea is that it's not going to turn into this 9 million page
Except that it
document.
will, and this is my problem. I think you need those guarantees because otherwise it doesn't end up a flat tax. If special interests step in and start cutting breaks for this industry and that industry, and if you buy this or that or a house or whatever, then it's no longer a flat tax. It becomes more beneficial to some people than others.
Okay.
I don't know how you protect against that.
So in 2016, if you want to stand out as a candidate, why not run back on this again like Mr. Forbes did in, what, 96?
I think you could,
think
but
I
I think
see
you
that.
have to be able to answer that question. How do you guarantee that a future Congress or a powerful member of Congress who's getting subsidized or getting funded by a particular industry isn't going to go
propose
I
a
think
bill
the
to
answer is
keep-
you can't.
to keep the issue or to keep the actual bill under X pages, under 5 pages.
Well, it's not just the page. Well,
Yeah. If you
wanna add one, you gotta subtract one.
But can you continue that forever? Because
Yeah,
that can be
I think
changed by
so.
any Congress.
I mean, Rand
in the
Paul
future.
tried to pass a bill that said we have to read the bills before we vote on them, and
Well,
he was
I-
laughed at.
Yeah, I actually like that.
That's,
never do
that's
that.
right, not a
Come
bad
on.
idea.
Anyway, to be continued, I
Yeah,
think.
it's to me a
very
fascinating subject.
valid argument. Anyway, it's my turn, and I want to talk about the Bill O'Reilly controversy. Obviously, this is one that is politically and personally motivated. First, before we go to the side of O'Reilly, just my quick take on this whole thing. Wrote a column about it over the weekend. The two people that have come to the forefront as far as accusations against O'Reilly, obviously the gentleman who wrote the article about Mr. O'Reilly's time in Argentina in 1982 covering the Falklands War. His name is David Korn. He writes for Mother Jones. Mr. Korn has won a Polk Award. It's not like he's some blogger in a basement. However, was employed by Fox News from 2001 to 2008 and then didn't have his contract renewed and ever since has been a contributor for MSNBC while writing for a niche liberal website that likes to attack Fox News on a daily basis. So when we look at motive, he might have a little bit. And then Eric Emberg, who has come forward, who was a former CBS colleague of Bill O'Reilly, he has said over the weekend on CNN that no shots were fired. He didn't hear any sirens going off, and it was a relatively tame riot. Do we have a video of that, guys, or no? We do? Let's roll that.
For which they fought.
Okay, that's...
What's that?
Okay, come back to me, guys. Sorry. Anyway, point being that if you go to the CBS News website, you would see, and they have it posted up on there, a video now of the O'Reilly report from Argentina in 1982. And believe you me, you will see shots being fired. You will see sirens going off. You will see buses being set ablaze. You will see people being carried off unconscious into ambulances. In other words, even though, if we're playing with semantics, Bill O'Reilly, like most other reporters covering that war, wasn't in a war zone on the Falklands. Right after that surrender in Buenos Aires, it sure as heck looked like one, and anybody who's going to say that he's another Brian Williams is out of their mind. Anyway, I only get the last word on that. Up next, yay or nay, don't go anyway, Daily Wrap, Newsmax TV. Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's time for Yay or Nay, Oscar edition. Last night, Oscars had everything you would expect from the award show of the season, but it also had some surprises I'm going to share with you and with my panel as well, as they will quickly weigh in with a yay or nay. So, my first story is actually not about something that happened last night, but rather what was missing. The great Joan Rivers was not included in the Oscars in memorandum segment last night. As you know, that's when they go through all the folks that unfortunately passed away over the last year. And even though Ms. Rivers was the queen of the red carpet, and when you think Oscars, at least the pregame show, Joan Rivers is the first name that comes up, it didn't happen. And many in the industry are saying that it was due to a time issue, and that she was more well known for things other than her film contributions. Did you not see Spaceballs? But hello, she practically invented the red carpet, as I said. So, snubbing the queen of the red carpet, yay or nay, Ms. Lady in Red?
Absolutely nay. Absolutely nay. I mean, she was really a classic icon in many ways, and she absolutely should have been respected and honored yesterday with everyone else. They respect random people, absolutely.
Personally care less, but I'll give it a nay.
I couldn't remember a movie she had been in. The fact that she did red carpet really isn't relevant.
Did I not say just say Spaceballs?
But you did. That's what I was going to say. You reminded me of the one film she did. So yeah. And by the way, they're right about the time, because it would have been 40 minutes and 3 seconds over.
And Rick's got the same combination on his luggage.
Yeah, that's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She played Dot Matrix, and I did not look that up. Anyway, Best Actress winner Patricia Arquette ended her acceptance speech last night by bringing attention to the need for more, yes, wage equality.
To every woman who gave birth, to every taxpayer and citizen of this nation, we have fought for everybody else's equal rights. It's our time to have wage equality once and for all, and equal rights for women in the United States of America.
Meryl Streep worth $300 billion. Standing ovation on that one. She doesn't get paid anything. Patricia Arquette, by the way, boy, I mean, she sounded like me getting to the studio today, just completely out of breath.
She was excited.
Go figure. I loved her in True Romance. So Meryl Streep and Jennifer Lopez seem to agree with her. Should acceptance speeches take a political turn, yay or nay? Carl?
Okay, well, look at this. Actors are there to entertain us, so they are essentially a glorified Xbox. So put your head back in the game, be an actor. Don't try to get involved with political fiasco, because you don't know what you're talking about.
Excellent.
I think that her message was good. I agree with her message, but that's not the place for it. I just don't understand why they think it is.
Because 44 million people are watching.
She won the Academy Award. We didn't. She can say whatever the hell she wants to say.
Okay, you are Mr. Hollywood. So that being said, I'm going to contradict myself. Nay. I mean, it's okay if it comes from a certain person, but when these people are getting paid millions, regardless of whether you're female, male,
doesn't mean you can't stand up for somebody. I stand up for a lot of people. I don't have their problem. Do you not stand up for people who have illnesses?
Pay. She's not talking about,
do.
You don't have the illness.
I just don't.
But she's not talking about not getting paid. It's just equal pay. Her message is right. It's just I don't know that the place is correct.
But in Hollywood, and you would know this better than anybody,
they're not equal pay.
It's not equal pay?
No, it's not.
We
Women
know that
are
from the
not
Sony
paid as well as men.
back.
Okay.
That's right.
All right.
So she has a good point. I just
Run
don't know
for
that's the right
office.
place.
Run for office. Thank you, Carl. Let's move on.
That's right.
As we mentioned on the show last night, this year's Oscars had its fair share of controversy over the lack of diversity in its nominees, and has ever been dubbed the whitest Oscars since 1998. Well, host Neil Patrick Harris, I just call him MPH, that's why I'm tripping, addressed the issue head on.
Welcome to the 87th Oscars. Tonight we honor Hollywood's best and brightest.
Then went on to pronounce David Oyelowo's name incorrectly throughout the entire evening. MPH, stick to the Tonys. So anyway, Sean Penn also made a rather insensitive jab, at Best Picture Director, Alejandro Inarritu. Let's hear it.
And the Oscar goes to who gave this son of a bitch his green card? Birdman.
We're a long way from Fast Times at Ridgemont High, aren't we? Apparently, the two
Not
are old
really.
friends, and the director didn't find the jab insulting. We are 1983, 32 years.
Yeah, but he's behaving the same way.
But if
You're
a
making a good
Republican
point.
said it.
Well, that's, yeah.
If he said Mr. Hand, it would have been so much better. But were those jokes any good, yay or nay, Rick Unger?
The first one was very good. I thought, given what's the silly controversy that's been going on, loved the first joke. The problem with Sean Penn's joke was it was an inside joke, and all of us weren't in on the joke.
Quickly, Heather.
I think they were fine. It's entertainment.
No David Chappelle, I'd say it was good anyway.
Dave Chappelle was actually there the night I got engaged.
Yeah.
Well, I went
give
to
it
a
a yay.
Comedy Cellar, and he gave a 3-hour. He was on something. It was horrible. I love Dave too, and but he complimented the ring and said, "Oh, Dan, you're poor." Worst imitation ever. Anyway, well, that's all the time we have for tonight. Thank you for watching. Be sure to catch us tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Eastern for more Daily Wrap right here on Newsmax TV. I'm Joe Concha saying bye bye.